All right, so I'm back with another solo Q&A, and I will have timestamps down below. So whatever this title is going to be, you can kind of skip to that. That's what you're interested in. But let's go ahead and hit it and answer these questions. So last Q&A, I talked about my MOTS-C and 5-amino 1-MQ uh, dose. And the number one question that people started asking through DMs. And if you could just leave your comments in the comment section, I'll answer those questions too. But it's like they said that they took MOTS-C and they didn't notice anything. But they only took it for 7 days. And I'm going to tell you, there's people out there that say they feel more energy or more focus, like less lethargia throughout the day, whether it be MOTS-C, 5-amino 1-MQ, SS31. People really claim SS31 works. They almost use it as if it were like a drug per se, like caffeine, how it hits the receptor and you can feel it immediately. I mean, unfortunately, man, I think a lot of people over exaggerate. I'm a realist when it comes to this, and I don't have any placebo effects. I just feel like it's working in the background. So you definitely need to take it longer than 7 days. And the dose doesn't have to be high, right? I'm a believer in um, lower doses, longer periods of time, even with things like anabolics. And I don't want to like do a huge stressor and then have to come down from that because I'm not sure if there's a mirroring effect coming back to homeostasis. So like if it goes up, it's not just going to come down back to where you were. It's going to drop below, right? And so I don't know if it does that same thing, but the MOTS-C, I just noticed after a few days of using it and with intense training, and again, this is all with intense training that I notice a difference. So if you're not intensely training, let's say you go to the gym. Okay, that's great. But a lot of people go to the gym. I watch people work out while I'm at the gym. There's no intensity. And I go to the general population gym, EOS, right? Um, just people, they don't change from year to year to year to year. They don't have any intensity. There's no structure. Their diet, who knows what it's like. Supplementation, I don't know. Stress levels, sleep quality. There's so many different things, right? You can make any excuse. But I notice the benefits of all these peptides in the fact that they can help in the background with maintaining energy output while aiding in recovery and increasing the my capability to use my food, right? So nutrition partitioning. So if it helps to maintain a healthier blood sugar level, then that's going to help maintain my growth or my recovery from the foods that I'm eating, especially carbohydrates, which are your main drivers for performance. Now, if you're just taking MOTS-C and you have a desk job, I don't think it's going to benefit you. Like I really don't. Like you're kind of wasting your money. So it's really like, why are you even taking it? If you're taking these things, MOTS-C, the 5-amino 1-MQ, SS31, if you're taking it for the claim that it of fat loss, the claim of enhanced cognitive function, to become superhuman, the same way that people look at Adderall as if like you take Adderall and then all of a sudden it's the movie Limitless and then you're just so focused on the work that you're a genius. It's not how it works. It doesn't unlock a part of your brain. These peptides don't unlock superhuman physiological, super physiological strengths and that are felt immediately. Like you have to get over that concept and don't listen to these people online who just over exaggerate things. And again, the only one that I would say would really help someone is if like SS31, let's say you're on a new diet and you do go to the gym every now and then, but you're more sedentary than the average gym goer. I think that that's helping because it can help to to kind of reinforce the mitochondrial wall and to make it healthier. So in the long run, taking a low dose of SS31 for a long period of time, alongside with what you're doing with your diet and a little bit of extra physical activity, I think that's going to help benefit you as far as keeping your body healthy and helping with longevity. Because I look at all these peptides as longevity therapies. So they help with immune modulating. So getting rid of or managing autoimmune diseases. managing your organ health, so your pancreas, your liver, your kidneys, all these things. And the number one thing that I want to make sure that people avoid is type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes, the root of all health conditions. So I would say if you're not feeling anything, it's because you're looking too much into it, and you might have the wrong information or the wrong peptide that you're using. So you need to, get with someone who has a realistic understanding. I mean, that's what I do. I don't offer these quick fixes. There's no quick fix. I'm sorry. The MOTS-C I started feeling whenever like, and the 5-amino 1-MQ, it's like I couldn't eat enough to keep my pump for but like my performance was just like through the wall. And I'm even still noticing it now to where I've lowered the dose on these things. Because like I've said before, I have done a couple of days of 3 milligrams of MOTS-C split up 3 times a day, so 9 milligrams total. And just the insane recovery and nutrition uptake I had while maintaining a healthy blood sugar level, which like I didn't have any crashes of like a hypoglycemia or reactive hypoglycemia. Those are the things that I notice. But again, that's just because it's paired with extreme intensity. Okay. And again, I am that type of person that goes to the extremes when training for endurance and then multiple times throughout the day. I love it. I love it. And it's a bad thing, right? Because I've had rhabdo a few times. And and it doesn't, it's just like soccer players, some other Olympic athletes, like they get rhabdo, and it's just really they're performing too much, and it's allowing your body not to recover as quickly as it needs to. So, um, yeah, again, the 5-amino 1-MQ, again, it's on the background, just helping with the NAD plus stores in the body, just trying to inhibit that NMMT, and that can help again with your immune health, your organ health, and also blood sugar. But the side effects of all these would be fat loss, right? We don't want to do weight loss because then that includes muscle. So I would say fat loss because you're making sure that your protein intake is high and your carbohydrates are at a dose per day to help you with your performance and recovery. And then your fats are at a minimum a day because we don't need as much fat as we think to produce hormones, especially if our mitochondria are healthier. So the more healthy your mitochondria is, the more likely it's going to help with uh, the synthesis and creation of hormones, the sex hormones. So you don't have to really rely upon cholesterol. All right. Next question. So, are there any Retta and GLP-1 alternatives since it's being taken down from the peptide websites? And where do you buy GLPs in the future? So, I can't give you any advice on where to go buy them. Let's just say there's a market for anything. You can find something somewhere. It doesn't matter where you're, it doesn't matter what it is, you're going to be able to find it, right? If you want to buy a kidney, you can buy a kidney probably. And the alternatives, uh, they're always coming out with something. There's a generation 4 GLP that's coming out. From what I hear, again, I don't know if it's real. I hear, there's a myostatin inhibitor attached to it, and then other people say that there's IGF attached to it. I don't really know. I do know that we have very, very smart people in the pharmaceutical industry that create these things. They're not influencers that you see on TV. You'll never see these people on TV or on social media. These people cannot promote or talk about anything that they're working on, and they are the ones that are creating all these things. And these influencers say that like they found it. No, I'm sorry that there's chemists out there that create these biochemists, and they're engineers technically, and they create these things. And then we just, we in the bodybuilding industry primarily, we get a hold of it and we experiment on ourselves, and now we have empirical evidence and anecdotal evidence. But that's just for ourselves and maybe our clients. But I would say that there's always going to be an alternative somewhere. There's going to be something that we can take. The retatrutide, it is a hard loss. I think it's something that's very valuable to the general population, not just in fitness, but in general population. And in the future, I, from what I see, there are going to be a reformation, a restructuring of how doctors prescribe GLPs, but it does have to be approved by the FDA. So Retta it'll be approved soon. It's passed all of its trials, and then you'll have to go get a prescription, and those will cost more and most likely not covered by insurance. Insurance doesn't want to take the bullet for that, but they should, because I do think it helps. Um, I'll go ahead and answer this other question because it's about uh, eating disorders. So hopefully, YouTube doesn't like people talking about eating disorders. I'll let you know I'm not diagnosing anybody. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a psychiatrist or a psychologist registered in any way. So I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm just going to give you my experience because this person asked, does bodybuilding cause eating disorders and body image disorders? Yes and no, right? I think anything sports related or physique related to where even you have to like make weight, so like wrestling, ballerina, gymnast, I think it does cause a skewed relationship with food and with body. Now, I manage. I'm not going to say I cured, but I manage an eating disorder that I have, a binge eating disorder that I ultimately got from sports and from having had Cushing's disease and autoimmune disease grown whenever I was younger. Unfortunately, my parents didn't know anything about nutrition, and I assumed that they were just trying to make sure that I was happy and really just try to what's the word I'm looking for? Like distract me from my autoimmune conditions. Is something very unpleasant, right? And also very unpleasant for them to go through as parents. So they're not to blame, but I didn't have the best nutrition, which causes autoimmune diseases to flare even more and to be less controllable. And you would definitely need pharmaceutical drugs for that management. And at that same time, the pharmaceutical drugs deteriorate your body slowly. Um, so I ended up getting a binge eating disorder because there's a point in time to where I've been very athletic, been on sports, been in the gym, and food is needed. I got into nutrition at a very young age, like 14. My grandparents were very into it. They taking all the life extension products, and they were giving us like multivitamins at a young age, like the reds and greens before they became popular. So I would always read those magazines that they have. I would always read Muscle and Fitness and uh, Muscular Development, all those other ones, right? All the bodybuilding stuff. And you gain weight, you gain fat as a teenager, but your performance as well. But then you want to be able to look like someone in the magazines or like that freak kid growing up. And so you're like, oh, I can do that, right? Like I know I can do that. So you try to prove yourself that you can do these things. And so I went through a period of time to where like I've had to eat food to have better performance. I've also needed to eat the food to train multiple times a day while I was in high school. But unfortunately, I also saw myself a certain way. And even now, I still feel very small compared to everybody else because I, I, I do like to work out in gyms with bodybuilders. So like if I'm at an area where I can go work out, like MI40 in Tampa or Destination Dallas, and you're looking at yourself when you're around them. I'm like, those are the people that I compare myself to, and even strength wise, because like my body just doesn't keep up with my strength. So I've had multiple injuries as well. So having the strength comparable to these people, but not the muscle mass, I also um, I had injuries. And so with injuries, you're not able to train the way that you would train, but you're still eating the way that you're eating. But then you start to notice that you're getting a little fat and your performance is going down and you're getting weaker. So then you start, going through these motions of getting that dopamine hit. And so so like you still want to eat, but then you realize I've done too much damage and then you purge. And so it's an ongoing battle and there's a lot of people that do it, and men and women, it doesn't matter what gender you are. And it is very rampant. And a lot of people don't talk about it because it is embarrassing. Um, sorry, I'm trying not to say the word so much. My brain just can't keep up with, or my mouth can't keep up with my brain. But I did go through that, the constant struggle. And, it was so dumb looking back at it. Like I wish there was a way, a better way to help these people that go through this, because it is a chemical imbalance with dopamine, serotonin, and there is that addiction process as well. It's very strong. It's a very strong bond. Food is very strong. The food additives that we have, they definitely stimulate a chemical imbalance. So whenever I would like binge and stuff, it would be dumb. Like it would be like really healthy food, And but like in high school, like I would still do like a box of cereal in the morning and like an oatmeal and jelly, like oatmeal and jam, jelly, jam, whatever, sandwich, and like two bananas or something. So like I would do that because I woke up at 4 a.m. and I would also train 2 times a day and go to school and such and play sports. And so, I was taking so much food, but it got to the point where when I got older, it's just like I became, uh, it turned from like eating too clean, eating too healthy, right? So let's reverse. That was the first thing that I did. So that was the first eating disorder. Was I forgot what they call it, but it's like you're just eating all clean food, like that's it, right? So that's what I did through my high school, and then like whenever I got to college, it was also realizing, well, at the end of high school and then through college, it was realizing, hey, like I need more calories, and so then you start eating more junk food. So then I started throwing more junk food, and then you like it makes the chemical imbalance just even crazier, right? Because your gut microbiome is all jacked up from this binging, where like you eat so much, and then your gut is it's trying to digest these foods and slow down so much. Your gastric emptying, and then there's fermentation, and it makes you feel bad, and you feel lethargic, and you don't want to feel that. You don't feel that like where you can't breathe, so you purge, and but then you also get like this really great um like sugar high, and also I was very insulin sensitive, so you'd also get like the vascularity, the sweats, and all these things, and you still get the performance later on. So it's a very abnormal disorder, and all these things were fueled by an image disorder, because I've had the performance, I had the strength to keep up with all these people, and the one thing that helped to control this, to really manage it, is really like to make it more manageable, to where like I've always had it in the background of my head, even like after being married and stuff. Like you're always thinking about how to plan your meals, right? And when to go to the gym, but then also what you're doing this while you're at the job. So it was rough working at a hospital and always having that in the back of my mind as well, but then saying like I need to get in food, but then now I you know if I'm with a patient or something, it's like I can't get that meal in right then. So now I got to push it closer. So now you're going to be eating like two meals back to back. Like you have to combine them in one. And now your gut's just in, and now you get this bad feeling that brings up these past memories. And now you feel bad. It's like there's too much fermentation, and it reminds you of like a binging episode, but it's really not, right? It is it's so weird, right? But and that's a different type of binge eating. But then you have the binge eating where if you're not working or you have time alone where you want something sweet because you've been neglecting eating sweet foods, and for some reason you have a craving for it. And that craving's coming from most likely uh, a bacterial imbalance in your gut microbiome, right? Most likely. That's what things are. That's what science is trying to figure out. And so all in all, the one thing that has helped tremendously is retatrutide. Like it is like this is where I say retatrutide is great for general population. It is meant to control the the glucose management and pancreas management of your body in response to foods. But it has this effect on addictions. And so it being a therapy peptide, I think it should be allowed to be prescribed, no problem. And it should be purchased through a peptide company. It's it is definitely a tool in the tool belt that is very useful at a low dose. 1 milligram every 7 days is what I do. And it has kept that food noise and in any other addiction, shopping addiction, because again, when you're dieting for bodybuilding shows, you want that dopamine hit. And a lot of times people start shopping and buying things that they usually wouldn't. And a lot of that also like boredom and stuff, like this just causes you to do things that you usually wouldn't do. And Retta like really controls that. And it does it with you just redirecting your focus, not even like replacing that like a hobby with that addiction. It's just redirecting focus. So it's not a cognitive boost or like an Adderall feeling, but it's just you're not thinking about those things. But it also it doesn't impede on me getting my food in for my performance and for my physique. But it's helped me in so many ways to overcome that disordered eating and disordered image of myself because I feel like my body's just is overall primed better, not only with like the SLU and the MOTS-C and the SS31 for mitochondrial health, but this retatrutide and is something very special about uh, managing addictions. Now, I don't drink, I don't smoke, so I don't know how well it helps with that, but I've heard that it does help as far as the extremity of it. I don't know like how extreme, like if they're, binge drinkers or if they're just like I don't really know that realm. That's not my forte. So, but I just think it's a big loss for the community. And if anybody's going through that stuff, I mean, it's hard. Even if you have someone that you is your friend or family that's going through it, there's I mean, there's not much you can do to really help them. That they're always going to have in the back of their head. They might seem fine, but they're going to have in the back of their head. And this red truth, I'm telling you, 1 milligram, and that's a low dose because people are taking it up to like 14, which is crazy. The higher the dose you go, the more likely you're going to have adverse effects. But I haven't come off of it, and it's been, we'll be coming up on a year at the beginning of next year. So, um, yeah. So, uh, does bodybuilding cause the eating disorders and image disorders? I think all sports where physiques or weight is involved, I think they do impact it, and they do impact it at a different level for everybody. So just because someone wants to eat healthy, I don't think that it's a bad thing, just as long as they don't eventually run themselves into restrictions of foods that they end up binge eating and then purging. So it may be a cause, man. I don't know. Not everybody gets it. Some people just don't even like to eat and they're bodybuilders. Okay. Okay. Next question. First steps to help a sedentary middle-aged woman lose weight. Do you need to go to the gym? You need some sort of physical activity. Like you need to be able to move. Resistance training is going to be the best because it's going to help to build muscle, and muscle will help prevent sarcopenia, so the breakdown of muscle as we age, which is going to help protect your bones. So if you fall, you're not going to break your femur or your hip. So yes, resistance training is most beneficial. As far as helping someone lose weight, I would say the first thing I would do, increase your protein. So whatever your protein's at now, it'd be great to weigh out how much protein that you have and not counting like don't count beans, don't count peanut butter, like protein from meat, dairy, and eggs. I would say add in two more meals, or you can call them snacks if you want, but they're technically meals. Um, of oh, if you're not hungry for some reason, like all these women say, "Oh, I barely eat anything. I just ate a salad and I gained all this weight. I didn't eat anything." Well, okay, well your metabolism is also slowing down because you're so sedentary. And then when you eat your salad, you're eating a bunch of fat because you're putting all this stuff on it. So yeah, you're going to get fat. You're eating way more food than what you think. So if you want to track your food to figure out how much you're really eating, and those little snacks of the chocolates or candies on your desk multiple times throughout the day, those all add up. And they add up day by day, week by week, and that's where you get the fat gain. Add in protein, okay? So like if you can't physically eat any more food, or you make the excuse that you just don't have time or the ability to pack a meal, then get a whey protein isolate or an egg protein, or if you're a vegan, that's probably why you're fat. Stop being vegan if you're vegan. So I would say a whey protein isolate is what I like. It is lactose free. They filter out all the lactose, and then for if there's any lactose in there, they throw in lactase enzyme. So unless you get anaphylactic from drinking milk or dairy, then okay, you can avoid it. But if you just say my tummy hurts after eating dairy, you're not going to have this problem with whey protein isolate. Add in two scoops a day and spread them out. So if you eat breakfast and then later on drink your whey protein shake and then have lunch and then drink your whey protein shake and then have dinner. Boom, there you go. Or eat breakfast, or you can skip breakfast and then eat something and then eat lunch and then whey protein and then dinner. And then before going to bed, if you want a bedtime snack, then you can do whey protein shake. And if you want to use a creamy, you can use a creamy. I know that's all the craze. I don't have one, but you can make your own protein ice cream. Don't go and buy that protein ice cream from stores. If you look at the food labels, it's going to have tons of fat. Same thing with anything. Just because it has higher protein doesn't mean it has the right amount of calories. They just add protein in there, which is add like to the regular thing, and then it increases the calories. So it's really you're getting more calories in now. Like just don't do that. just just get the whey protein shake and just add in more protein. That's the first thing. Add in more protein, two meals, more protein. So two of those meals, shakes. Okay, so that's going to give you, if you're doing whey protein isolate, that's going to give you 50 grams of protein extra per day. You do that day by day, week by week. It's going to help with building muscle. It's going to help increase mTOR and MPS and build some muscle, even with you doing very light resistance training and also walking. Try to get 10,000 steps per day. Just try, make that a goal. At the end of 2026, I'm going to hit 10,000 steps per day. Where am I at? Okay, last question. Did the 1990s bodybuilders come off all anabolic steroids completely? And did they also take off weeks of training? I heard that some people did back in the day. So they probably did as far as anabolics, just because they could get what they can get and they can get the supply, however, to supply them for however long their prep is or off season. Now, do they come off completely? I don't know. I mean, they weren't really, I would say a handful of them were like smart about what they did, but not all of them. And I also don't think their memory is that great. And I think they've lied so much on previous interviews where they had to lie about their drug use because they didn't want that to be told out in the media because that would encourage younger people to start using steroids, or that would also admit them from using an illegal substance and also purchasing it from somewhere illegally. So I think that they've lied to themselves so much that they believe the lies, and then now they've lied so much also they can't go back and say something that's honest, because then it'll prove that they've been lying for however long. Now, same thing. So same thing like with their dosage. Their dosage was probably way more than what they claim. They all want to be super responders, right? And bad clearancers, I guess. But I think that they think if they have to use a higher dose, then they are inferior than someone else who claims to use a lower dose. So they all were like using lower doses. I mean, except for Nasser, who's very, like, I would say, open about his high dose use. um, comparative to everybody else for what they claim. Now, as far as training, I don't really know, man. I mean, what do they? Here's the thing, though, is like, what do they deem training as? Do they deem training as like on a program working with Charles Glass, or do they is training going to the gym, staying active, just but not on a training program, not on any certain split? So if they claim that they take like 8 weeks off from the gym, 3 months off from the gym, things like that, did they really take 3 months off from the gym, or you know, did they travel a little bit and they worked out here and there? So they technically went to the gym maybe 3 times per week. They can do that, and maybe they weren't taking anabolic steroid cycles. Maybe they were off their cycle, and so they're using wordplay here. So maybe they were actually just taking orals, right? So you'd have to go back and look at these interviews to be like, I didn't inject myself like like for an entire off season or whatever. Okay, well, you said inject yourselves. Well, maybe you were taking orals. So I take what they say with a little grain of salt, and I don't believe everything they say. I don't believe the doses. I believe Milos, as far as like his journals and such, because he is pretty extreme. But the way that some of these other people claim that they're off, and how large their cycle was and what the esters were, the steroids will still be going through their bloodstream within, 6 weeks post, and then maybe they go on something else. And I still think that they probably took orals and such. And if they had a coach, maybe the coach gave them orals and they said, oh no, it's a vitamin D or something, or it's an organ. The organs were really big back then, organ tablets, you chew them up and stuff. Maybe they're taking that. Maybe their coach said it was like Aleve or Advil or something, and they're taking it, and it's actually an oral steroid. I don't know. That's my thoughts about that. I just, all I know is that when you have tons of muscle built from using higher doses to get all of your muscle on your body, I believe that you can drop the doses because your androgens are much more responsive, they're much more dense in the muscles. So you got to come off to reset your androgen, or your AR receptors. I don't believe because from what we see in science that it actually just helps improve them the longer we're on it. So yeah. They had no clue back then. They were just thinking, uh, thinking off the top of their heads. So that's it for today. If you could leave any comments, questions, whatever down below, and I can answer them. And I'd rather not respond via text in there. I'd rather just answer them on a video. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys later.